Forests and woodlands cover approximately 4.9 million hectares in Uganda, about 24% of the total land area. The vast majority of this is woodland at 19%, while the rest is tropical moist forest at 5%. The total forest reserve area is estimated at 1,277,684 hectares, of which 99.6% is under the central forest reserves, while 0.4% is on local forest reserves. Uganda offers 6 principal indigenous natural forest reserves for harvesting, with hardwood species such as Chlorophylla excelsa, Entandrophragma, Lovoa brownii, and others. The National Forestry Resources Research Institute NaFORRI is a national agricultural research institute mandated to undertake research in all aspects of forestry. Research in NaFORRI aims at increasing the benefits derived from trees and forests through conservation and sustainable management of Uganda's forests and tree resources.
Forestry is a science that contributes to the well-being of both humans and the environment. As we stand, forestry contributes over 90% of Uganda's energy requirements, and at the moment contributes about 8.7% to the GDP. Under forestry research, our main concern is to develop technologies and disseminate them for the well-being of humanity. So our purpose is to develop forestry technologies and disseminate them for adoption, targeting to improve the livelihoods of the people as well as contribute to the economic development of the country. So specifically, we work towards solving problems that face the communities. And this is guided by needs assessment that we do, identifying the challenges, and then develop the technologies.
Initial forest plantations were established in the 1960s. By 2000, the 15,000 hectares which were established in the 1960s had largely been harvested, with less than 1,500 hectares of mature trees remaining. It was observed then that in 10 to 15 years, if a solution was not addressed, there would be a major gap in the supply of forest products from plantations. In order to meet the rising demand of forests, 159,999 hectares of well-managed timber plantations are needed by 2025.
The opportunities and challenges that precipitated the work we do involve among them climate change issues, pests and diseases, the lack of good management practices for tree planting, and then the demand for forest products and services, as well as the accelerated deforestation in the country, which actually stands at about 200 hectares per annum. So as the population grew, demand for forest products increased, and that precipitated us to find options for how do we contribute to to stopping forest deforestation. So the options we explored were looking at on-farm planting. And on-farm planting requires proper management practices for trees. So unlike the practice that people think trees can grow by themselves, forest research comes in to provide the relevant options on how trees are managed on a farm to optimize the benefits. So we've concentrated in on-farm tree planting, whereby we come in to recommend the management practices, the tree species suited for which site, the tree species for which site, quality, ensure quality in planting material, and as well as provide the necessary policy and guidance on how trees are managed.
Deforestation is one of the most devastating challenges we face. Uganda's forests are faced with continuously worsening trends through encroachment, deforestation, and forest degradation through conversion of forest land to other land uses. These include agriculture, urbanization, and rampant felling of trees for timber, firewood and charcoal, burning on private and government land, fires, and livestock damage on forest plantations. Overall, the country has been losing, on average, 122,000 hectares of forest every year from 1990 to 2015. The greatest loss in the country is estimated at 250,000 hectares of forest annually, according to the NFA estimates for the period between 2005 to 2010.
NARO has made some breakthrough, and one of the key in forest research being work on chrono-eucalyptus, looking at the challenges and the lack and the decreasing tree products. Forest research came in to try out chrono-eucalyptus. The National Forest Research Institute is the pioneer on chrono-eucalyptus research in the country. And as we speak, we have had a lot of adoption, having introduced and adapted and tried it in several ecological regions. We have now over 50 private nurseries working on chrono-eucalyptus. And this gives a conservative estimate of about 75 million accruing to the chrono-eucalyptus practitioners. We've been able to develop energy-saving stoves, which are able to help in curbing the deforestation rate. These energy stoves are able to use briquettes, and in the process of manufacturing briquettes, you are able to even to provide char that can be used in soil fertility improvement. We've been able to recommend management practices on farm for managing trees, and this was mainly through the agroforestry research, where multi-purpose tree species were introduced and are doing a great job in improving the livelihoods of the people. Some of these trees and shrubs, you talk of Coriandra caryophysis, which serves both as a soil conservation, serves as soil fertility replenishment because it's nitrogen fixing, and its leaves work to provide good fodder for lactating animals. And its research has shown that feeding Coriandra mixed with other feeds to a cow is able to increase the milk production thrice. So this helps in increasing the productivity as well as the profitability of this enterprise. We've been able to restore degraded lands by applying hydrogels. These are substances that absorb water and keep it in the soil. So we've been able to plant trees in areas that would otherwise not have grown them. Areas in Akasongora, and then also introduction of drought tolerant tree species. We've been able to provide and recommend silvicultural practices that help tree species like Melia volkensi, silvicultural practices, and get to know the spacings they required for optimal production. The other area where we've been able to provide groundbreaking research is the pest and disease incidence. The eucalyptus has been heavily attacked by eucalyptus pests, among them what they call the lice of eucalyptus. Most people have complained about this, but research has come in to introduce biological control measures to manage the pests. To some extent, there has been reduction, but work continues on this. So these are some of the, and then we've been able to provide integrated soil management practices, targeting to improve on the soil erosion, especially in steep hills, and this also helps in conserving the watersheds, which are a source of ecological balance for the ecosystem.
The carbon market involves buying and selling of greenhouse gas emissions, allowance or project offsets. The markets put a monetary cost on pollution from greenhouse gases that punishes those who emit more than a set allowance and benefits those who emit less. In Uganda, the Uganda Carbon Bureau provides incentives to forest owners to increase the size of their plantations and delay the cutting of trees. The Uganda Carbon Bureau provides practical advice and support to project developers, carbon credit buyers, development agencies, financiers, and others wanting a better understanding of climate change. Also, global warming and the carbon emissions trading market is also addressed.
Globally and nationally, we've been faced with the issue of climate change. And this is where now forestry research comes into play a role. I should mention for a record that the carbon value of forests currently stands at about $500 million. That is if all forests were to be converted then we are losing about $500 million as value for carbon. So these are the threat forest research has come in to encourage tree planting. It's only through afforestation and reforestation that we're able to contribute to mitigating effects of climate change. And like I said, with our interventions of introducing multi-purpose tree species that are adapted to different sites and encouraging people to plant, we've been able to restore at least 5,000 hectares. And so encouraging people to plant on their farms through agroforestry, all this collectively goes a long way to contribute to combating the effects of climate change. So as more and more people get to understand the value of trees and planting them on their sites, forest research definitely is destined to contribute to combating the effects of climate change.
The forest products sector is estimated to contribute about 1% of world gross domestic product and to account for 3% of international merchandise trade. In Uganda, forest products sector contributes 6.1% to the GDP. However, this is an underestimation given that the value of non-wood products and environmental services of forests is difficult to estimate in economic terms. Forest Products and Services Research Program, FPSRP, is one of the research programs at NaFORRI that spearhead research in forest products and services. These are the benefits that accrue from forests, and they are the reason people plant and conserve forests. Forest products include wood products, for example firewood, charcoal, timber, and poles, and non-wood forest products such as rattan canes, wild fruits, nuts, medicine, edible insects, oils, gums, mushrooms, honey, resin, and bamboo.
The contribution of forestry is normally underestimated. It provides both direct and indirect services. The direct, I can say, when you talk of energy, in Uganda, over 90% of the energy comes from tree biomass, and over 75% of households actually use firewood. So this contribution, given that we cannot migrate to use of electricity, it shows that forestry has contributed to food security. For instance, if the firewood people use was not, and this contributes actually to reducing on the fossil fuels. Now, the construction industry in Uganda is booming. It's increasing at a high rate, and all the construction material is basically tree-based. Talk of roofing, the timber, and also in the furniture industry. This contributes to employment, for example, but also generates income to the private tree owners from whose forest all this is harvested. Talk of the non-wood forest products, which actually are always undervalued. Talk of medicinal, pharmaceutical industries. At the moment, I think the pharmaceuticals that accrue from forests are valued at about $400,000 per annum. And this normally goes unrecorded. There is quite a number out there that rely on herbal medicine. All this is not captured, but all this is a contribution that comes from forestry. When you talk of the briquettes, the value addition to forest products, currently there is a lot of wastage, say in the sawdust and byproducts of wood. But some of the technologies that we have generated are able to provide the much needed value addition. The energy saving stoves, people are saving a lot of firewood, but also generating a lot of plantation forestry. So the contribution, I could say, has been in raw timber, but for the artisans who add value to the timber sawn are making a lot of money out of the products. And like I said, at a contribution of 8.7% to GDP, then we can see the value forestry has. If only we can get the right conceptual and methodological approaches to valuing forest, then the actual value would be recorded. We've seen the construction industry, like I've said, but you're also seeing timber, poles for transmission. All of this is forestry at work. And so, moving forward, I see that the tree species that have been introduced, fast growth, providing firewood, providing timber, herbal medicine, all this is contribution that, and when you talk of fruit trees as well, all this is forestry. So this is a contribution that has really accrued from forestry and contributed to jobs. The forestry sector employs over 1 million people, and this is the formal, but it's also the informal that comes through the different enterprises that people carry out on a day-to-day basis.
Forest products are very important to the social economic well-being of local communities. Forest adjacent communities usually depend on forests for a number of products including poles, fuel wood, honey, mushrooms, herbal medicines, and more. Some of these products are marketable in the local markets and can contribute to household incomes. Unfortunately, the harvesting process and utilization of these forest products is inefficient, wasteful, and unsustainable. Research offers opportunities for improved productivity and utilization of forest products and could enhance development of forest-based industries.
I see potential for the business community in forestry, remembering that forestry is actually the backbone of agriculture. The environmental services that forests provide, the hydrological cycle, the climate change modification, all this contributes to the productivity of agriculture. Now, looking at the products, timber, poles, firewood, I see potential for value addition in forestry products. When you look at products like bamboo. Bamboo is one of the neglected potential. And then looking at conversion of wastes into useful products. This is an area that can be exploited by the business community. But importantly, looking at the deforestation rate of 200,000 hectares per annum, the business community needs to contribute to reversing the trends, but at the same time benefiting from the enterprise with the introduction of various tree species that are fast growing, of high potential. On-farm tree planting remains now the option. We have had a lot of plantation forest development. Many people have gone through into it, and the benefits are quite immense, because in a hectare alone, one can get about 80 million just in 1 hectare. So imagine now if you, and the demand is rising and the market is there. And I can tell you there's a lot of plantation development that has gone on, and that's the value that people have now come to see. This will go a long way into saving the forests, the natural forests especially, that have been depleted through encroachment and other products. So you plant on your own farm, you're able to get the money, but in a nutshell, you're also contributing to the climate and environmental negative effects that have been going on over the time. So the onus is now on us, we in the forest sector, working with government and other stakeholders, to show people the value that forests have, and then encourage them to plant right for their profit as well as for the environmental protection. It's from tree planting in terms of monetary value are quite immense. For example, if you planted eucalyptus and you are targeting poles, in 5 or 4 years you are able to harvest poles, which in 1 acre at a given market price you are able to get about 80 million shillings. If a tree goes for about 100 or between 50 and 100,000, you're able to get about over 80 million shillings in an acre.
Among the most valuable medicinal trees in Uganda is the Prunus africana. The Prunus africana belongs to the Rosaceae family and is also called the red stinkwood tree. This evergreen monoecious tree is native to sub-Saharan Africa in 22 countries including Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, and South Africa, to mention just a few. The Prunus africana tree species has wide applications in African traditional medicine, where its leaves, roots, and stem bark are used. Although the stem bark of the tree is the main part that has been used for medicinal purposes by African people since ancient times, the dull gray to brown bark is pulverized by the traditional healers and used to treat a number of health conditions including benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is enlargement of the prostate, among males over 40 years old, erectile dysfunction, urinary tract disorders, kidney disease, male baldness, stomach upsets, chest pains, and inflammation. The bark is also used in the treatment of stomachache and wound dressing. Apart from the bark, the leaves of Prunus africana are also used to treat some diseases. An infusion of the leaves is traditionally used to improve the appetite and for the treatment of genital infections and hirsutism, a condition of unwanted male pattern hair growth in women. The bark is also sought as an aphrodisiac to enhance vitality and sexual power among the males.
Looking at the forestry sector and with a research perspective, I see potential for research. And moving forward, I see potential in the pharmaceutical industry to do with the forests and trees. I see potential in value addition, research for value addition. We need to invest in adding value to the forest products. Till now, the consumption has been basically raw. And if you added value, so research into value addition for forestry and forest products is immense. And we see trends in evolving with, say, tree pests and diseases and arising out of climate change. These are bound to continue. So there is a need to invest further in forest research. And then there is always underestimation of forest value. So research should concentrate as well in determining the rightful methods that can actually put on table the value of the forest that we have.
We have lost a number of acres of forest cover at a rate of 2% annually. And this is normally attributed to poor methods of harvesting and also utilization of forests. That's why in this program here under NaFORRI, we use best techniques of conversion of wood into products. These are efficient techniques. At the same time, we use efficient means of utilizing these products. During the process of conversion of wood and timber, we come up with wastes. If these wastes, which are normally called wood wastes, in terms of wood shavings, sawdust, and also short dimensional pieces, these wastes we carry out on research that help to utilize them in a proper way or efficient way. One, these wastes can be converted into fuel in the form of briquettes. The stove uses wood shavings, wood wastes, and all other dry agro wastes like maize cobs and groundnut husks. In the process of cooking, it generates minimum smoke, and also as a result of cooking, instead of ash, we get charcoal. This one is charcoal. In small pieces, they normally call it biochar. This biochar, we use it to make briquettes. Again, briquettes which we can use in other ordinary charcoal stoves. Also, this biochar can be used to enhance soil fertility during farming.
Forest represents opportunities for any upcoming tree farmer. Like I said before, commercial forestry plantation is on the knob, and plantation forests are providing all the benefit, and eucalyptus and even other species. There is need to develop the pharmaceutical industry arising from a tree-based food and confectionery. We have 3 species in the drylands, like the acacias, which provide gum arabic, and this gum arabic is being exploited outside for the food and confectionery industry. There is energy efficient technologies. If you delve into energy efficient stoves, you are not only contributing to curbing the deforestation rate, but you are also improving on the quality of the food you produce. You are saving energy, and then you are saving money as well. Water management technologies. These forests provide a natural protection for over the watersheds, erosion control. And then there is carbon forestry at the moment. There is carbon and money that can accrue from the plantation that people plant. All we need to work out is negotiate the kind of pricing in the carbon industry. But also, the commercial forest planter needs to look at quality, especially from research now. You need to look out for quality germplasm, look out for improved tree germplasm, and then work to implement good silvicultural practices. Research provides the practices that people need to adopt to get the productivity out of a unit area. And then quality, different tree species suited to different sites. This is information that research provides, that the farmer will not only do things differently, but do it in a modern way, targeting productivity, that will give him much more profit compared to someone who has not practiced the modern ways provided by research. So quality planting material is key. Following silvicultural management practices, using the right species for the right site will go a long way in helping a new commercial tree farmer in forestry.
Small growers play a very important role in the commercial forestry sector in Uganda. This is majorly because of land fragmentation and also the low capacity of large-scale investment. The country needs between 150,000 to 200,000 hectares of forestry to ensure a sustainable forestry industry, and the current plantations are estimated at between 70,000 and 80,000 hectares only. There is, however, an enabling environment to support forestry expansion.
There is need for sensitization for people to understand further the value of forests, especially the values that are not measurable and have been left out during forest evaluation. For instance, the purification of this air we breathe, all these are services that trees provide. Habitats for the animals, watershed protection, soil erosion prevention, mitigating climate. All these are services that are rarely captured when forests are being valued. So with further support from government and development partners, we should be able to take forestry research a step further and help to support the communities that we work for to bring them to a modern society and transform their livelihoods for the better.
Now we know the commercial and environmental importance of forestry. We have seen the innovations which NARO has developed under NaFORRI, and now let's hear from a real farmer about the benefits of farming trees.
Amanya gange zesitanule sempa balima nga ndi mutuuze ku kyalo kino Diikwe tubadde omuluka gw'ennamaliga naye kati byakyuseemu mugombola ekimenyedde kati naye twagenze mu tawuni kanso nga disitulikiti y'e Mukono. Wano wendi ndi mu nnimiro mwenzijja omuddo gw'empente zange. Kwegamba omuddo guno, emiti gino ngitema nenkitabula mu bisagazi kwegamba ente beekyusakyusa beefaanana eyo gye batwala ku nsiko kubanga nze nondera ku zero grazing kati bw'erya ku muddo guno esinga eyo gy'owa ebisagazi byokka olwekyo omuddo guno gunyamba okuba nti kyongera ku nte yange amaanyi era oluusi nkusekula naye nkutabula mu mmere y'enkoko era enkoko eyo ebanga kumpi efaanana n'eyo egera ne yeeriisa yokka nebojjabojja omuddo bwe nkutabulamu bandina enjawulo obawo enjawulo wakati w'eyo gyempadde emmere eri etaliimu muddo guno omuddo guno abakugu baava kabembe eyo baava kabembe nga bakulembera omwami Bongole bagundeetera wano ne bagunsomesa sigundeeta buleetezi kubanga si buli kibandeetera nti nkikozesa naye bansomesa emigaso egirimu nange netandika okugukozesa era kati waliwo emiti emikulu kwegisinga ku guno era webansomesa bwebanga nti ati kakwongereyo nabaga nti munyongere kubanga nali maze okumanya omugaso oguli mu miti gino kyentegeeza kiraba ti bwempa enkoko ezo oba ente omuddo guno ndabawo enjawulo okuva kuki kuva ku bisagazi byokka byokka nankozesa ebisagazi byokka byokka.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Agricultural Research for Transformation. Please reach out to us on our social media platforms through Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We would like to hear from you.